Well, we figured, we didn't know, but we knew when she left Kremling that she was bleeding.
So you leave the hospital.
We leave the hospital, and yeah. And I go into this doctor's office, and the receptionist says, "Well, he's stitching up a lady's leg. She was in a car accident." And I said, "Oh, well, Nancy, at this point, is bent over in a chair in the waiting room, and her kids are crying. She had these 4 bedraggled little children, and they're all crying because they're real scared about their mother." And the husband of the lady whose leg is being stitched comes out and says, "Is that your friend?" And I said, "Yes, and these are her kids." And he says to the doctor comes out, he goes, "What's going on?" And he says, "Look, my wife needs to have her leg stitched, but it's not an emergency. This lady looks like there's something really, really wrong with her. You can go ahead and take this lady next." And he said, "You know, I want to know what drug she's on." I said, "She's not on drugs. This has nothing to do with drugs." And the receptionist says, "I think you need to get her to a hospital." I said, "Well, what kind of ambulances do you have here?" "We don't have ambulances." And I said, "Oh, 1980 and you don't have, okay. So, do you have it? Can I get some help getting her to the next town?" And they said, "You know, it's down the valley along the canyon road." And he said, "Now, I don't want to see you driving like a lunatic down the canyon road. You'll go off the road and then you'll all die." And I said, "Could you get me a police escort?" "No, I can't." I said, "How far away is the next town?" And he said, "Well, you're in Kremling, Colorado. The next town is Vernal, Utah." I said, "How long is it going to take to get me there?" 45 minutes. And I said, he goes, go carefully. I want you to drive carefully." And I said, "Okay, I will." And we had to and the husband, basically came and helped me not drag, Nancy could hardly walk. He helped me get her in the car. And I started driving along the river in the canyon. And it was windy and twisty, and she slumped off the front seat onto the floor, and I was like terrified. Oh my God, oh my God. And I get her to Vernal, Utah, and I ran in. I left the car right there, you know, at the end of the sidewalk, and they came out with a gurney, and they laid her down on it. And of course they're asking me, "What is she on drugs?" And I said, "No, she's not on drugs." I knew, but I said, "She is bleeding internally." They were like, "Oh my God, we're going to have to get her into surgery." And I said, "The last hospital told us that she was bleeding, but they let us go. I don't know why." So Nancy's taking off her rings. She's giving me David's phone number to call David, the kid's father. And they took her away, and she gave me her jewelry. And I had a tent, you know, but I couldn't see setting up a tent with the 4 kids and feeling safe. So there was a hotel nearby, and I went to the hotel and I told the lady the situation, that my friend was having surgery and I have her 4 children. Did she have a room? And she, very, very nice. She, "Oh, honey, you're such a good friend." She had a corner room that had 2 rooms and a bathroom in between. So the kids slept in one great big giant bed, and I slept in the other room by myself. And oh my God, I did that for a couple days. It was really hot there. It was like in the 90s. And so in the morning, I put the camper stove in the bathtub, and I turned it on. Only turned it on if it was in the bathtub. I figured it wouldn't catch fire. And she would bring me, she was so sweet. She brought me a pot of chili for dinner and a couple other things, you know, for dinner. And in the morning, I'd buy those. I went to the store, and because what are we going to do all day? I'd say, okay, girls, what do you want to do today? I want to go see Mommy. So we'd go to the hospital, but they wouldn't let them in because they were under, all of them were 10 or under. And so we'd throw stones at her window, and she would kind of hobble over to the, or they would push the bed over to the window, and she'd wave, "Hi, girls." And they'd say, "Hi, Mommy. We love you." And then that was it for the rest of the day. We had to do something else. So we'd go to the store, we'd go grocery shopping because it was air conditioned in the grocery store. Where's my rabbit? And oh, okay. And then we went to the library some days because it was air conditioned. We got books, but I don't think we checked them out because we didn't have an address. And we did art, and then we took it to Mommy. We threw stones at the window, and we held the art up to show her the art.
How many days?
She was in the hospital for over a week.
Oh my God.
It was a nightmare. And finally, I didn't have enough money to pay for the room for any more nights. And the lady was so sweet. When I went to her, I said, "Ma'am, I'm going to have to go camp. We have a tent, and is there a campground in this town?" She told me where it was, yes. So I said, "Thank you." And she gave me this glass, a bird made out of glass. She said, "This is for you because you're such a good friend." And I said, "Oh, thank you." Well, I knew, and I cried, and I cried. I knew I couldn't set the tent up by myself, so I thought I needed help. So I called their father. "David, could you come?" For some reason, he couldn't come. Then I called my boyfriend, and no, Wally, he couldn't come either. He had to work. Thanks, guys. And then I called somebody who I knew would come, even though I didn't really want him to, Kenny, because he really liked Nancy. And he flew out right away. He flew out. And
who is this?
Kenny Piaskowski.
The bartender.
Yeah. And he rented a car, and he came to get me, or I went to pick him up, I guess, because he flew in. And he came and helped me set the tent up, and that's when we coined the phrase Rosie Winky, because the twins were 3 years old. They had just turned 3, and they had never taken a shower before, and they were scared of showers. And the bathroom, like our tent was down here, there was like a hill, and the bathhouse was up on the hill. And finally, one of the girls said, "You two have to have showers because you stink." And they were like, I said, "Oh God." So I took them up. We went up. She said, "You have a stinky winky." We walked up the hill, and I taught them how to take a shower, and they were okay with it. And I think they felt pretty good because they were clean. And so they came running down the hill from the bathhouse. They said, "We have Rosie Winkies now. We have Rosie Winkies now." I'm like, oh God, they're not my kids. I mean, and people were asking, like, "Where are you from?" "Oh, we're from Maryland." "And what's your husband doing?" And "Where did your husband go?" "We went to the store." They thought Kenny was my husband, and that these were our kids.
And you just went with it.
Huh?
You just went with it.
Yeah, because if I said, "No, he's not my husband, and these aren't my kids," what if, there'd be an Amber Alert.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
They didn't have an Amber Alert back then. So I just went with it. But I said, "You're sleeping on the far end of this tent," and nobody wanted to be next to him. So I protected them from him. I laid down on the outside of the 4 of them, and he was over there.
So he came out to rescue.
Yeah.
his wannabe girlfriend's family.
Yeah. And, you know, nobody really appreciated it except me.
Yeah. They were like, ew.
Yeah, so when she's getting out, the doctor said, no, you can go home. And she said, I don't live here. I have a job in Oregon, and we have to all get in the car and drive to Oregon, which was hours and hours and hours away. And he said, well, you better not be lifting anything. And so she sat in the back seat and he was in the front seat, and I drove to Oregon, and I was terrified because she had surgery. It was like she had a tumor on her, or a cyst on her ovary, and it exploded, I guess. And I mean, she already had 4 children, so the doctor, it was like a Mormon hospital. The doctor saved her ovary, you know, just in case she wanted more kids. And I don't think Kenny and I were getting along very well by that time. And we said to him, look, you cannot go to this camp. This is like a private camp, and this big guy with earrings and stuff, you know. I said, you can come with us, but we'll take you to Portland or something, because I don't think you can even spend the night there. I don't know, you know. So he came with us, and I think he slept in the car when we got there. And I had a teepee because I was a counselor.
But he stayed.
I was the arts and crafts counselor, yeah. He tried to stay for longer than one night. And I was like, you know, you need to move along here.
Oh, what about...
So then one day, Kenny and I decided we would occupy the kids by doing something educational. So this is like, there's desert around us, all around. Let's go to Dinosaur National Monument, which is like just desert, really. There's no museum or anything, and I don't think there was nothing to see except, you know, little mounds of desert. Oh, I don't know. So we went driving. We went driving around, way, 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 way far away from any kind of town or anything, outside of Vernal. We went down this really lonely road, and it was a dead end. So as I was turning the station wagon around, the back end of the car went down this embankment towards a little creek that was, the color of the water was like cinnamon, the color of cinnamon, and it was thick and murky, and both wheels of the car were over the embankment.
So if you'd gotten stuck, how far away were you from...
Everybody's screaming. We're at least 40 miles from anywhere. And when we turned on this run road, there was it was an office for some kind of company. It was like in one of those metal sheds. And there were very few cars parked around it. And so I decided that Kenny should go ask these people if they could help us get this car from over the edge of the embankment. Well, while they were gone, I thought I would try to get the car up and out a little bit. And instead, when I was backing up, the twins are yelling, instead of the ditch, they're yelling the VITCH, they're screaming on the top of their lungs.
The what?
The VITCH.
The VITCH!
The VITCH. And I'm like, okay. So I put...
You know what they meant?
I knew they meant ditch. I put the car in park, and I said, okay, girls, climb out into the front seat and climb out of the car. So then these 2 kind of rednecky guys with all this jewelry come down the road in a truck, and they have a chain. And so if you think about it, the car is at this angle, like this. They put the chain on the back of the car. These girls were yelling, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty. And one of them took a bottle of milk and they went out. They tried to find some shade and they're drinking this milk. And I'm like, that's going to make you sick if you stay in the sun. And they're screaming and yelling because they're thirsty and they're hungry. And I'm screaming, I'm saying, no, Kenny, tell them no. If you put the chain on this end of the car, on the end of the car, and pull, it's going to just go like this. Kenny's like, you be quiet. Quit telling them what to do. And I'm like, I'm telling you, you need to pull it this way to pull it up and out. And he's like, no. And so they just didn't listen to me. And the car, they start pulling the car, they're spinning wheels, and the car goes like this, down into the VITCH. And now the creek, the brown cinnamon colored creek is, oh, you hit him right on the head. He's probably brain damaged now.
Oh yeah, 'cause before he was.
Nelson, he's mad. That probably hurt. Now the car is in the ditch.
In the VITCH.
Yeah, it's in the VITCH, and the creek is running through
the car.
The car, through the car.
And all your stuff is in there.
All our stuff is in it. Not all of our stuff. Most of our stuff was at it was in the tent. Did you see your necklace? That's Lucy's. So, and then everybody's crying because this mucky water, the VITCH, and these guys went, oh shit, and they jumped in the car.
They took off?
They took off. They jumped in the truck and they just spin wheels out of there. They were gone. And Kenny's like, damn it. And
you were yelling at him like I told you, and
yeah.
So how'd you get out?
He's walking around throwing rocks. Son of a bitch. So, how did we finally get out of there? Somebody managed to get the police to come, and they looked at the situation, and they said, we'll get a tow truck to come. So this tow truck comes, and the tow truck knows how to do it. They hook the car up
the right way.
And they pull it up on the main road, and all this water and rocks and stones are gushing out of the car. And there was this much water in on the floor of the back seat. So the car works. It actually works. So I get in the car, start it, and I think they turned it around for me. And we got to the end of the road, and when I put my brakes on, all the water goes whoosh, whoosh, back and forth like this. And if I turned the corner, a corner too hard, all the water went over to one side.
Oh my God.
And all their bags and their pillows and stuff, not their pillows, but their blankets, everything in the back was full of this mucky, stinky water. I was like, oh my God. They're still crying, the VITCH.
As if the trip isn't traumatic enough.
Yeah.
So Mom gets out of the hospital. You guys go to Oregon to the camp?
Yeah, and the car smells like high heaven. And there were big stones up in the wheel well, between the wheel well and the tires, so that when you drove, you scraping. And the rocks, I'd stop and the rocks would drop out. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. So she got out, and so we start traveling to the camp. And we had a great time at the camp. The kids loved it. I loved it. I had my own teepee. Seth had a teepee for me, and it had a carpet, and it had a double bed, and I had a fire pit in there and a little desk.
So what happened to Piaskowski?
Piaskowski went to Portland, and he started hitchhiking around, or traveling up and down the coast of...
Okay, so he was gone.
He was gone, yeah.
Okay.
So,
how long did the camp last?
Camp lasted till the third week of August.
So weeks.
Weeks. 6 weeks, maybe. Mount St. Helens had just erupted in May, and then it erupted again a second time. And Danielle said, Carolyn, Carolyn. She came running down to me and she said, Carolyn, Carolyn, Mount St. Helens is blowing again. So we went out and stood in the garden, and there behind us was this big mushroom cloud of ash, blue and white. And we stood in front of it, you know, smiling, and that was pretty exciting. And then I think my friends Seth and Tim took me up there after it was safe to see all the ash and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And all the trees that were stripped of their branches, and they were just these long skinny sticks now. They looked like toothpicks sticking in the ground. They were just leaning with no branches because it burned off. And so then we get to leave the camp because camp's over. And then the real nightmare begins. So Nancy and I would sleep on the hood of the car. It was a great big car, a Plymouth, I think, station wagon. And we would drive to some campground place and park. Huh?
Where are you going?
Well, we did this on the way out, so we decided to do this on the way
back to the East Coast.
Yeah, and we told Kenny he wouldn't fit in the car with us, and so he did not come with us. Well, so what we did was we drove to a place where we could sleep, and Nancy and I would take our sleeping bags and our pillows and put them on the hood of the car. It was it was just like having a reclining bed. You put your your thing on the windshield, your pillow. We locked the kids in the car. They all just lined up in the back like little sardines. And that's how we did it. That's how we managed to be able to afford to drive home. And so at some point we were in Sheridan, Wyoming. We were outside of Sheridan. We were to the west, actually. And we woke up at the break of dawn, and the kids were still asleep, so we would go get our cup of coffee and drink and talk and drink coffee. And we're on this road outside of Sheridan, and we run out of gas. We didn't watch the gas gauge. And so we're sitting there on the highway thinking. She says, well, somebody has to hitchhike into Sheridan and get some gas. I said, yeah, like who? Not the mother of these 4 children. I'm going to do that. So I put my hand out, and these guys and a guy and a girl maybe in a red Mustang kind of car pick me up, and I tell them I'm out of gas. They said, well, we'll take you to a gas station. So I go there. I have to pay $20 for them as a down payment, and they fill this can with gas for me. And I said, well, okay, now how do I get back to the car? And they said, well, we have this truck driver here. He's getting ready to go to. His name was George, I think. He's getting ready to go down to what town? Some town south of Sheridan. Maybe he'll take you in his semi truck. Oh God! So
terrifying.
I say, okay, so I climb up into this rig, and I get up there in the passenger seat, and we start talking. I said, God, there's not much out here, is there? I said, like a real Easterner. And he says, well, you got to know what you're looking for. Okay, so he says, so where'd you say this? Where did this happen? And I said, well, we'll see them. What we're going to see is a white station wagon along the side of the road with 4 scrungy-looking kids and a woman standing there with them. And there they were. They were like, hi, hi. They're jumping up and down. Hi, hi, because I'm waving. Hi, I'm up in this rig. I was so excited, you know. And I had this big sweater on with these great big pockets, and I had a red wallet with $200 worth of traveler's checks in it. and a little bit of cash in my pocket. So I jump down from the rig and I go across the highway, and everybody's hugging and kissing and love. And I get in the car to drive. Where's my wallet? Where is my wallet? I'm hysterical. I'm crying and crying and crying. And she's like, wait, they're gonna have to start crying if you cry. Oh my God. So now I have to go back to Sheridan and call George, the truck driver, and ask him if I dropped my wallet in his truck. So we reach him, I think it was in Coyote or someplace. And he said, no, there's no wallet, red wallet in my car, in my truck. I'm like, okay, thank you. So we go back. They had been feeding, the girls were feeding these birds with crackers, those captain's crackers. And so we decide to go back to where I jumped out of the rig. So we're looking for the crackers. Of course, they're gone because all the birds ate them. So we park where we think we were parked before. And then I jumped, and then we went across the highway to look. And every time I saw a Coca-Cola bottle, Coca-Cola can, I thought it was my wallet, and it wasn't. And someone else, we could see them, they ran out of gas right up the road from where our car was. And Nancy said, oh my God, this is called Dead Woman's Creek. And Crazy Woman's Creek, maybe Crazy Woman's Creek and Dead Indian Creek. Nancy said, we've got to get the hell out of here. There's too many, I think too many Indians were killed here by white people. We need to get the hell out of here. You're right, we do. So we poured the gasoline. We had already poured the gas in, and we headed back to Sheridan to give them back their can, and they gave me back my $20. That's all the money I had.
Wallet's gone.
My wallet's gone with my $200 worth of traveler's checks. And
well, at that time it's a lot, right?
That was a lot, yeah. And it wasn't enough to get us back home. That was for sure. So I called my friend Bob, who lived in Boulder, which was due south of where we were. And I said, Bob, can Nancy and I and the 4 kids come and just spend the night down at your place and refresh ourselves and maybe try to figure out something? And he said, sure, yeah, my house is your house. So we get there, so we start driving, and I've been driving since 5 o'clock in the morning, remember this. I drove, and that's when Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind, was playing. I had it recorded on a tape, and we kept playing it over and over again. And Ride Like the Wind, if you listen to the lyrics of Ride Like the Wind, it's unbelievable.
It spoke to you.
It spoke to me because it was the perfect song for what I was going through. So we get to Bob's, and it was great because we got to take showers and sleep in a bed. And
What's Bob's last name?
Bob Cooks. But maybe we didn't sleep in beds. The kids, of course, had to sleep on the floor as usual. And in the morning, I knew that, I had traveler's checks, and American Express, they take care of you, and I'll tell you, they really took care of me. So I had to, what you do is you have the receipts for the traveler's checks, you keep them in a separate place, and I had them in the glove compartment. And so I called them, and they said, we don't have an office in Boulder, but our representative will meet you in the lobby of the Holiday Inn. And I thought, oh, okay. All right. I said, well, she said, honey, you have to go out and get the receipts. Tell me the serial numbers. So I go out to the car, and I'm in the passenger seat, and I open the glove compartment, and I pull out 2 receipts, 100, 200. And so then I get out of the car, and I go back in the house, and when I pick up the phone, she's still on hold. I only have 1 receipt in my hand. I said, wait a minute.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
I know. That's what I said. I said, wait a minute. My God, I had 2 in my hand when I went into the car, and now I only have 1. And she goes, oh, go back outside and look. So I went and looked in the shrubbery across the yard. Not there. And it's not in the car either. And I came back in, I'm crying now. Oh my God. I only have one. She goes, okay, tell me the numbers. So I told her the number of the receipt on the receipts, and she goes, I'm going to assume that the other one came right before this, and I'm going to put you down for 2. I said, oh, bless you. Thank God. Thank you so much. So I met these men at the lobby of the Holiday Inn, which made me feel really creepy. Bob went with me, I think. It was kind of creepy.
The American Express men?
Yeah. And they gave me $200 cash money.
Not traveler checks again?
Maybe they gave me the two. No, I guess they gave me the traveler's checks, yeah. And I said, oh my gosh, I will always respect American Express for this. And I have.
This has all been one long commercial for
it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the next morning we took off.
Back east.
Yeah, and I started having a massive anxiety attack. Like, I looked in the rearview mirror. I'm driving again. Of course, I was driving that other day when we ran out of gas. 15 hours straight without even closing my eyes. And I'm driving again. And I look at the rearview mirror and I see the Rocky Mountains behind me. And it's all purple and white. And the sky is blue. And ahead of us, the straight road through this really dry nowhere land. And I just had these massive anxiety attacks. And I said to Nancy, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. She goes, just do deep breathing in and out. In, out. And so I'm driving. And there up ahead of us we see this guy with rainbow suspenders and these blue jean bell bottoms, and I at that time I had red hair, and Nancy and we were all brown and freckly, and because we've been outside all summer, and I said, look at him, he's cute. His hair was like the same color as mine, real curly, real long, and he's smiling.
Mark?
And Nancy and I just go, we look at each other. She goes, go for it. So I pull over.
So you didn't have room for Kenny?
No, but we had room for Adam. So we pull over, and he runs up to the car, and he leans in and he goes, hi, girls. Wow, wow, there's a lot of girls. He looks in the back and he goes, where are you headed? And he said, Baltimore. And I said, well, that's where I'm headed towards Annapolis in a few days. He goes, great. How long can you take me? How far can you take me? And I said, we just burst out laughing. I said, as long as you can stand it. And so we hopped in. And every time we stopped the car, Adam got in the middle and Nancy and I were on either side of him. And when we stopped for the night, that night, we told him how we sleep on the hood, and we said, you can sleep between us. He's like, whoa, really? Yeah. And so we're in our sleeping bags, and so we're 3 of us are on the hood of the car, and the kids are locked in the car. And Nancy had said to Kenny, okay, so you stayed for a couple days at the camp, but please don't be at my house. You know, I can't live with you like we were living. You know, you lived here before we left, but I can't live with somebody right now. So don't be at the house when we come home. He said, all right. And she was very clear about that. So that's when, and he told me he was going to go to Cleveland first. I said, oh, well, I went to school in Ohio. I know exactly the road. It was 70 north or 71 north. And we're just talking and talking and talking. And all of a sudden we said, it said Pittsburgh, 15 miles. I said, oh my God, we missed the road to Cleveland. He's like, oh. I said, that means maybe you'll have to come to the valley with us. And he said, okay, if the valley's as beautiful as what you say it is, okay, that's great. And we were like, okay. And I was like, I'm really sorry, Adam. We were talking too much. We pull into the driveway at the farmhouse. Kenny has Christmas lights all in the trees, Christmas lights across the front porch, And he greets us. He steps out and he sees Adam. We said to Adam, just sit there, don't move. And so the kids are screaming, lock the doors, lock the doors. And we just sat there. Oh, fuck. I said, how do we explain this? And Nancy goes, oh my God, I don't know how we explain it. So he comes out, he goes, oh, so you didn't have room for me. Who's this? And we were like, this is Adam, Kenny. This is Kenny, this is Adam. How do you do?
And he had flown out to like rescue?
Yeah.
Oh, Kenny.
Yeah. He's probably hated me ever since. So we go in and he says, can I make a cup of tea for you all? So, sure, that'd be great. So we all sit at the kitchen table in the farmhouse, and we're drinking, and I'm like ready to fall asleep. And I said, I need a nap. Nancy says, so do I. Adam says, yeah, I could take a nap. And the three of us stand up